mobile. Lots of questions around mobile. So how can you reach your customers better with mobile? We know you can, but we're being inundated right and left with texts, and I just got one from Bed Bath & Beyond a second ago, had no idea I signed up with them. And how are we communicating? How are you guys taking the communication of what you need to do and integrating it into mobile? So there's lots of ways to think about it. And our goal is for you to be able to utilize mobile to improve your business. And those challenges are great. You're dealing with HIPAA compliance, you're dealing with, obviously a ton of data. So we have to kind of look at this and say, how do we structure our mobile strategies better? And I really think we're kind of at the point right now that we're starting to see technology actually have an influence in healthcare. So now we got to kind of marry the two about, customer retention, better communication with all of our customers, whether they be patients or just, a B2C kind of environment. So with that said, I want to introduce to you someone who really, really is leading some of the largest healthcare organizations and companies across the country in formulating their mobile strategies. So his insights are going to be invaluable. So I want to introduce you to him. His name is Michael Prichard. And while skateboarding, here's my fun fact. While skateboarding on a trip in Denmark with his best friend, Danish actually, when he accidentally dropped a railroad rail on his foot while at a skate park. Anyway, it's a long story. Immediately, knowing that this was not a good thing and that the damage had been done, he kindly waited for his best friend to finish skating and then was pushed on a skateboard to the nearest hospital where they managed to stitch up his foot and send him away on crutches. The rest of the trip, he was designated photographer. As much as he'd like to say that's what led him to this career in health, you'll have to ask him for the real pathway. Introducing Michael Prichard.
Well, hello. All right, first off, I'm going to take some of my time. I want you guys to thank the organizers, the sponsors, and the staff that's working this thing right now, because I know it's a hard job, so please thank them. I feel like we need to do some jumping jacks here so we can get some energy going. Come on. All right. One thing, I'm Michael Prichard from Willow Apps. We are, I'd like to say, one of the leaders in mobile app development. You can look us up later to see if that's true or not. While I'm here to talk about mobile app development, I also come from the world of healthcare. I actually started my career working for a durable medical equipment company called Rotec and helped them build digital, software to help make patients' lives better. So this is actually a topic that I truly care about, and I'm hoping that I can help you guys do something around that. Before we get started, I have no idea how to use this thing. This is kind of embarrassing. There we go. Before we get started, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the format of my talk. I try not to cram too much text into the presentation, and I try to give you guys as much as I can verbally, but there is a format to this. First off, this little section here will have a tidbit, a fact, or something for you guys to kind of read. I'm not going to ever read it, but it's something for you guys to pay attention to. I also like to supply tips on the bottom. Again, I'm not going to read these things, but something for you guys to write down and hopefully pull from each slide. And finally, I have to talk about something that's near and dear to me, the fact that most tech speakers are not that exciting. And so what I do on my slides, and I promise you that I actually didn't come up with this, I stole this from a guy named Kai Kawasaki, who I've had the pleasure of seeing twice. I actually count my slides down from 10 all the way down. So this gives you guys a clue of how long you have to put up with me. So there you go. That's it. That's the format. By the way, that's WWDC. It's the Apple Developer Conference. I actually came here early to do this. It's still going on. It's very painful and very exciting at the same time because tonight's the party, and I think Vampire Weekend's playing. But we'll talk about that later. So where am I now? All right, so if I do my job correctly, I'm hoping that you guys will walk out of here with a better understanding of what actually you should be thinking about, and of course, what questions you should be asking. Will I be able to give you guys the secret of life, or maybe the holy grail of healthcare apps? Probably not in these 25 minutes. But I'm hoping I can at least set you guys down the right path and maybe give you guys a few tools for your tool belt to actually make a difference. Not only for your customers, who are your patients, but also your care providers. So hopefully I can do that for you guys. And by the way, hopefully I can rush through this so you guys can answer some questions. But if not, I'm around. All right. So most industries, most industries are saying right now, my users have moved to mobile, right? So they're asking us, how do we take what we have and mobile optimize it? I don't think this is the case for healthcare. I think this is an opportunity for us to actually see what we can do with these devices beyond what was being done through normal channels. This is a big opportunity. We can use it to engage things that have not been done before, and also radically improve things that are being done now. To be honest with you guys, I actually believe that we have an unprecedented opportunity to affect real positive change for our patients as long as we take some things into consideration. As you guys know, I don't need to tell you how big mobile is. You guys already know that. You're here. We've gone through the smartphone cycle, tablet cycle. Now we're moving to the third cycle, which is things like wearables, which are things like the Google Glass, drivables, flyables, and scannables. In fact, just as a treat for you guys, and I can hopefully say that I'm the only person here that has these, but this is Google Glass. I brought it. I thought you were putting it on. I was about to say this sucks, but this is it. Think of what we can do with this, right? I mean, what if a healthcare provider can actually put these on while they're talking to you, not look down at a computer? Wouldn't that make it a little bit more engaging and personal? Well, I agree that it can. And in fact, that's what mobile is. All right, good. And mobile is personal and engaging. So what I mean by that is, the opportunity here is that we can actually affect some change. I want to talk about behavior, and this is something that we can do with mobile that we haven't been able to do before. What I mean by that is, if you check out what in terms of drivers with premature death, 40% of that is things that are actual behavioral, smoking, obesity, et cetera. So if we can actually use the devices to help someone do something small, maybe go for a walk or maybe eat the right thing, that's a huge effect on what we can do. Here's some more stats that you guys know about obesity, just to give you guys some background, which you guys probably know. 30% of Americans are obese. It's about 100 million people. Medical costs are $147 billion, which is actually double of what was the cost from 10 years ago, which is pretty incredible. And one more thing, 18% of our GDP, which by the way is $2.26 trillion, is dedicated to healthcare. So I think there's stuff that we can do here to help make things better. All right, I was pushing the wrong button. That's why I wasn't changing. So my question to you guys is, couldn't we use this medium to help someone make better choices? Yes, we can. In fact, we're actually already doing this in retail. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but 49% of shoppers have actually changed their mind in store based on mobile, right? So if I can affect behavior in a store, why can't I use it for healthcare? So that's the kind of things I want you guys to be thinking about. All right. So before you guys do anything, I want you to think about what you're trying to do. Why are you even spending this time and money to create an app? Early on in our business, we have, actually it's even happening now, people come to us and go, we need an app. And of course, we ask the question, why do you need an app? And they say, because we need an app. Well, that's not a good answer, because I promise you, the smartphone user, the last thing that I need is another app. So please take the time to think about what you're trying to do. In fact, I was extremely happy to hear some of this coming up today's keynote of what you need to do. Let me give you another example of what really matters. A good deal of attention is being paid to reimbursement rates thanks to the Affordable Care Act. And basically, Medicare is penalizing hospitals for people that are coming back into hospital after surgery. To give you a little idea how much that costs, is about, right now the penalties are about $280 million in 2010, and they're going to continue to grow. Nearly 2 million Medicare beneficiaries are readmitted within 30 days of release each year, which costs Medicare about $17.5 billion in hospital costs. So to me, that's kind of something that we can do. What can we do to help with that? I think the majority of healthcare of readmittance actually is education. Patients go home, They don't know what to do. They end up back in the hospital. So some things that we can actually do there is use these devices to help them communicate back to their healthcare provider, for example. But before you do that, you need to define the problem. All right. So focus. There are over 900,000 iPhone apps out there right now alone. Most of them, I think, miss the mark. In fact, I think healthcare apps miss the mark. This graphic right here is actually a really great thing to look at. Most apps are downloaded and then people stop using them. Now, I want you guys to check out that little lower quadrant on the left there, quadrant 3. Notice where healthcare and medical is? That's really bad news. In fact, I'm going to call that section right there the quadrant of death. You do not want to end up there. Why do people end up there? Because you're not engaging the user and you're not actually providing value for them. So what are they going to do? They're basically going to stop using it, using the app completely, or not use it at all. So that's not something you want to get into. Some tips that you can do to not end up there is to actually try not to be everything. Mobile is not a website, so please don't try to shove everything in there. We talk our clients out of that all the time. Some things that I like to do is look at the apps that you like to use on a daily basis. Most of them do one thing or do something very, very narrow. So for example, I use Uber, I use TripIt, I use Mail. Those are very specific apps. So start thinking about the stuff that you deliver to your patients to do one thing specifically and do it really well, or else you're going to end up in the quadrant of death, and you don't want to be there, believe me. To put it another way, and I try to come up with a good analogy, you probably wouldn't use a Swiss Army knife to fillet a fish, so don't try to do that in mobile. Another good example of an app that I really like that does one thing and actually makes it fun is a pill reminder from a company called Pillboxy. Has anyone ever heard of this app? All right, well, this is one of the top medical apps in the store, and it's also a paid app. And it does one thing, and it's to remind you to take your pills or your medication, and it actually does it in a way that's actually a lot of fun. So I would look at apps like that to emulate. All right, let's take a look at the remittance again as an example. The idea is, what can we do to help a patient actually not be remitted back into hospital? My gut says that we need to offer them a little guidance and a bit of education. At least that's what I think. Before I get into some details, though, I do want to mention that you should really think through who your user is. That's a really important thing. And looking at demographic data like this is great, but I think you need to go a little bit deeper and actually define who you really want to service. So what we do, and I'm going to give you guys a little secret, and I'm seeing it happen right now, is we use a concept called user personas. For example, here's Bob. He's about 70 years old, retired military, 2 kids, wants to be healthy, not afraid of technology, and really takes a big part in his own health care. Another way you could look at it, for example, and by the way, that's my dad, so I wanted to show you guys that actually 70-year-old guys do use smartphones, and they use them all the time, and he's a really good guy. Or you can take something like, for remittance, say, Jane, 35 to 40, working mother, working single mother maybe. Smartphone is their only access to the internet, which, by the way, a lot of poor demographics, that is the only access. We've seen that in education. We do a ton of work in education. We know that a lot of families, the only phone they have is an Android phone, and that's how they actually get to the internet. Same thing with healthcare. So it's kind of important, especially given that in readmittance, poorer hospitals are the ones getting penalized the most. So you know. So take the time to actually define who you're trying to do. Once you define who you're trying to serve, you can actually design a useful experience to kind of give them to make sure they actually are engaged and do keep coming back. All right. So to close the loop on readmittance, something that we could do. Maybe we can engage our patients to, when they go home. Maybe even give them an iPad. It's a $600 thing to save you $280 million. I think it's okay. Have them put a daily log. Take a picture of their wound. Tell them how they feel. Submit that back to the hospital. Maybe we have some AI or some logic that says, if it meets this criteria, tell them they're okay, or give them some educational material that they can actually consume on that device. Help them out. Maybe if it's something that needs for them to come to the hospital, tell them, come to the hospital. Have a doctor call them. There's lots of things that we can do through these devices to kind of make this better. That said, another thing I want you guys to do as you're putting together these apps or this mobile strategy is to take all of that and do your best to do simple, clean interfaces. Nothing's worse than getting into an app or some kind of system that you can't understand. I see it every day with a lot, I'm sorry, any EHR people here, because I see it a lot with EHR systems that nobody wants to use because they're really horrible. We don't want to do that with our patients or our care providers because they're not going to use it. So work really hard to actually take the time to think about ways to make it easier for them. Some examples. Try to alleviate typing as much as you can. And by the way, this is a screenshot of an app, of a system, actually. It's more than an app now, that we did for Wounded Warriors, the Department of Defense. And these are guys, EOD guys, that have literally been blown up. And this is a system for them. It's a closed social network that helps them kind of reach other people in their situation and or family. So things that we do is try to be, one, use semantics that they know, like rank, et cetera. Try to alleviate typing as much as we can, because I've been in the room with guys that are triple amputees and maybe have a couple fingers here that is really hard to do. For example, I'll give you an example of something we didn't think about. We came in there, we were testing the app at Bethesda Naval Hospital. One of the pieces of it is that you can actually take a picture of yourself for a profile, right? That's great for you or me that have two hands, but what about the guy with one hand? How's he going to take a picture of his profile? A timer. So think about who you're servicing and how to do it. So again, try to make it simple. By the way, the readmittance piece, I actually did not come up with that. I actually was at eHealth in Ottawa, and there's a company called Seamless Mobile Health. It's a doctor and a couple other guys that are trying to do this because they see this happening in their hospital. So they put a system together to try to help educate patients before they come back, which is hugely important. All right. Something that I like to say early on is make sure to leverage the medium. All right. So what I encourage you guys to do is to actually learn what these things can do, or a tablet can do, or Google Glass, or whatever you want to use. What I've done, just so you guys know, I switch devices all the time, and I'll actually immerse myself with them. I go from my iPhone, and I encourage you guys to do this. I go from my iPhone, which, by the way, I had to pull out again because I went to WWDC, so I don't want to be walking around with this. And I moved to this, and I made myself use it. Why? Because each device has its own little things that you have to understand. And what do these devices do, for example? Push is a great thing that you can do with this device you can't do, say, with a website. What can you do with push? Well, push has been proven. Push notifications. Does everybody know what a push notification is? Yes? Come on, you got to help me out here. Yeah. All right. Push notifications. It has been proven that people actually are more engaged when you actually send them reminders or let them know what's happening, right? So why can't we use that medium to actually have people take their meds, right? Or, for example, maybe put in a log, something to kind of encourage them to do what they're doing. Another great thing about these devices is that we have tools like a camera or FaceTime. So, for example, I take a picture of my wound, I send it in. It is red. I'm not a doctor, by the way, so it's infected. And I have a story about that. I'll tell you later. Not about being infected, but not being a doctor. I might as well tell you now. I was giving a talk at another medical thing, and we built the Baby Center's pregnancy tracker apps. And it's basically every week you get it's week 4 of your pregnancy, your baby's the size of and I said a watermelon or something, right? 4 weeks. And everybody in there is a doctor, is like, what are you giving birth to, an elephant? Like, they looked at me like I was crazy. So that's my story, so I try to stay away. But anyway, so you have a wound, you take a picture, use the camera, upload it to a server, have a doctor look at it, maybe call them, do a FaceTime, do whatever. You can actually probably administer help remotely with these devices in their hands. So learn these devices inside and out. All right, I'm going to give up on my notes. I'm just going straight in. All right, so something else. Something that we did early on was not really think through what we're trying to track, what we're trying to measure, analytics, et cetera. We would take stuff like Flurry, throw it into an app, put the app out there, get a ton of downloads, and then whip out this interface and look at it and go, what the are we looking at? Like, what are we tracking? Right? And by then, we're already down the road. We've missed a lot of data, et cetera. So what I want you guys to do is actually think through, what is the ROI? What are you guys trying to track? What's your success criteria? Right? Is it that you want people to be engaged? Do you want patients to submit a daily log? Great, track that. What can you do with that? If someone doesn't submit a log, send them a push notification. If they don't do it again the second day, call them. Do something, right? It's much cheaper than having them come in the hospital or whatnot. So make sure you spend a lot of time up front defining exactly what you're trying to track. Another thing that I think is hugely important, and something that I've noticed as we've been getting a lot more into healthcare, is that you have to assemble the right team. In fact, I think you have to assemble the right team for anything you do in life. Starting a business, starting a baseball team, whatever, you have to get the right people together. And especially in healthcare and in mobile and et cetera. I mean, we are dealing right now with the hospitals, a couple hospital systems, trying to deliver software that doctors are coming to us, asking us to develop so they can help their patients, right? We can't distribute them. We're right now working in these hospitals trying to understand how to distribute this infrastructure. I've talked to 3 CIOs in the same place. It's absolutely crazy. So you need to find people that actually understand this and can navigate these waters. Not only that, you need to find people that actually understand what delivering in healthcare is about. You have HIPAA, right? You have patient privacy. You have obviously the FDA. People, we talked about that earlier. I'm actually on a working group for the App Developer Alliance that's trying to hopefully keep the FDA from making any apps that have PHI, patient health information, become medical devices, because that's going to be hugely a pain. You know, what are the IT policies? What's a business agreement, right? Who's liable, et cetera. Find the right team to make this happen. And you know how I picture it like this. Doctors themselves go to specialists, right? So you should also find the right people to do the right job. This is hugely important. All right. Big pet peeve of mine, something that I've been dealing with since day one, are apps that we spend a lot of time, our clients spend a lot of money building. We put them out, and then they don't want to keep iterating on them. They just leave them out there. This is not a build it and forget it model. I promise you, anything you put out needs to be nurtured. It's like having a child. You just can't give birth to a child and hope that it's okay. You've got to keep feeding it, nurturing it, growing it, teaching it to do the right thing. Don't give up. I know I'm trying to do the best analogy I can, but I'm telling you, do not forget about these things. This is not a forget it and leave it model, especially when you're trying to improve patient care, especially when you're trying to improve engagement and make it personal. This is hugely important, so I'm going to leave this up for another second. All right, continuously improve. No, that's what we do. That's how we've gotten to where we've gone. You always get better. Just don't forget. I had to use this. I don't know if any of you, does anybody know what this is? Please tell me yes. Yes. All right. As a developer, I have to go to 0. That's where we go. For those that have written code, you know you understand what that means. But basically, regardless of if you remember anything I said today, which hopefully you will remember a lot of it, but if you don't, these are the 3 things that I want you guys to write down and actually store away and come out of this in a way that hopefully you can use these questions to help you get started. These are the questions that we start every client engagement with. I'm not going to read them. You can see them. But take this. I'm giving it to you right now. Take these, and this is what you need to start doing from now on. Before I end this, and I have 4 minutes to sit up here, I'm going to tell you a story. This actually happened 2 days ago. I was at WWDC, which is the Apple Developer Conference, which, by the way, is fantastic. I already said that. And I'm sitting with a friend of mine who's the director of new ventures and product at eBay. And he's like, why are you leaving early? Where are you going? I'm like, dude, I'm going to go talk at this awesome conference, Digital Health Summit. He's like, that's awesome. And then we started talking about healthcare. And the first question he asked me is like, why aren't big companies doing this? Why aren't they doing it right? And that started us down a conversation of thinking about who really is going to innovate in this space. And I actually think that it's not going to be the Pfizers and the Mercks or the government. It's going to be you guys. It's going to be the guys in their garages, right? They're able to use this technology, these mobile devices that we've already seen disrupt entire industries. Anybody can build an app, and the distribution channel is massive. Again, there's how many millions of downloads have there been since 300 million? I have no idea. Billions? You can distribute to everybody. Those are the people that are actually going to be disruptive in this space. And to me, another example that we've seen, there's patients that are starting to write their own apps that can change the world. There's doctors themselves who are getting tired of this. There's family, there's ill, like I've seen things being developed by families. So in other words, I think that's going to be the true disruptors, and I'm hoping that you guys take advantage of this and actually really change what we're doing for patients. And I'm not trying to be corny or anything. I really, truly believe that we can really help people. And I want you guys to help people, and I keep pointing to this thing, this is not it, but a phone is the way to do it. So please do it. All right, thank you. Any questions? I have 2 minutes. in 38 seconds. All right. All right, well, I got Google Glass. Come see me.